Not enough.
Hi, Gabby.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Downtown-Diridon Community Working Group. We're just going to give everyone a minute or so to get in the room, conscious that some people may be coming in and logging in just now and their Zoom might be delaying. So as I said, we'll just give everyone one more minute and then we'll get going. Okay, Kristen, do you want to pull up the slide deck so we can get this meeting going? So again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to VTA's BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 Extension Project, Downtown-Diridon Community Working Group for September. My name is Joe Clayton, and I will be filling in for Kate Christopherson, who is taking some well-earned leave. I just want to give everyone a heads up that this is a very long slide deck. There are 106 slides. There's a lot of fantastic content, a lot of really interesting content. So if we can't answer all of your questions tonight, please note that we will try to get back to them in our follow-up email. And we may have to at times cut a couple of conversations short to make sure that we can continue and get through the presentation. All right, so let's get started. So as I was saying, we've got a really packed agenda tonight. We've got quite a few items from various members of the project team, everything from follow-up items through a project update, some interesting information about the project delivery methods, a deep dive into the look and the feel of the stations that some of you may have participated through the design review committee or the public involvement website that was set up for that, an update on Downtown and Diridon station access that may address some of the questions that we've received in the last couple of CWGs. We'll then go into Gretchen's community engagement report and then hear from our CWG members. And then let's keep going. So hopefully by now, everyone's pretty familiar with Zoom. And so just as a reminder for how we run things tonight, everyone will be on mute. I will unmute people if they've got questions. You can raise your hand to be unmuted, or you can type it in the Q&A box. If you're calling in on a landline, you can press star and 9, and that will raise a hand, which will allow us to enable you to speak. We're going to devote about 2 minutes per question comment. And I will say we're going to make sure that all comments and questions stick to the agenda item. If it's off topic, I'm sorry, but we will have to move on. And please allow others an opportunity to speak before raising your hand. We want to make sure we've got as many people as possible getting involved in the discussion. Okay, so some interesting meetings that might be relevant for people here. Our next CWG meeting is in November. We've got 2 upcoming VTA Board of Directors meetings on October 7th and November 4th, and a VTA BART joint meeting on October 16th. And as always, Kate will email alerts for other meetings, such as board workshops that might be of interest. And now diving into those follow-up items from the last meeting. So we've heard from some of you about how VTA is coordinating tunnel and station design. So there are integration meetings between the tunnel and station design teams. And for those that were wondering, passenger circulation is a key consideration of those integration meetings. We've had a question about how VTA can award contracts without environmental clearance. The project has received environmental clearance, and this happened in 2018 after we circulated the final SEIS-SEIR. There have been some questions as well about what happened with the recent VTA cyber attack, and the BSV databases we can confirm were not affected by that cyber attack. We had a question about whether contracts include penalties for contractors or subs not complying with the Construction Transportation Management Plan. So the CTMP does not include any language on penalties. However, there are various liquidated damages for failure to achieve certain things, including compliance with the CTMP. And finally, if bonuses would be provided to contractors if they complete work on time. So at this stage, VTA is considering a bonus for early completion of work, but not for completing on time. Any questions from our CWG members? Okay, Kristen, can you unmute Scott? He had his hand up.
Joe, I wanted to clarify. I think the question was, will there be a penalty for the contractors if they don't perform, not just a bonus?
Okay, I apologize that we took that question the wrong way. I don't know if we've got the right people in the room to get that, but we will take it down and I'll make sure that we get back to that one in the follow-up email, so you don't have to wait till next meeting. I think Chris had his hand up. Okay, Chris, did you want to say something or can we move on?
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Okay, so 2 months ago at the last community working group, there was a question that I asked about engagement of the High-Speed Rail Authority. So I just want to follow up to see if there's a status report or a status report is coming in some fashion down the road where we can see our relation to the high-speed rail as well as what's happening with BART.
Okay, I'll just check if anyone from our team in the room can respond to that. And if not, I'll make sure that we make that a priority to get back to you as soon as possible on that.
Thanks.
Erica, are you aware of a response for that or?
I do not know one off the top of my head, no.
Okay, all right, I am sorry about that. And we
So,
will.
Actually, if I could, Chris, we are participants, as is High Speed Rail, on the DISC program. So we do have coordination on a technical level with DISC staff through that. We've actually participated with High Speed Rail in one of their recent or semi-recent, it was over COVID, public meetings, and we have and will ask them to follow up during one of their upcoming milestones. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Gretchen, that sounds good. And I'm guessing as we get closer to, as we head into whether it's planning or beginning construction, whatever it might be, in fact, long before construction, I would personally, I would just like to see if we can get High Speed Rail in the room to kind of talk about how we're aligned in relation to the BART project and the High Speed Rail project. So I appreciate all the foundation work you're doing right now, but just want to keep that question active.
Sure thing. And as they go through their environmental process, Chris, they'll be, we already have a completed environmental document for our project, so they will certainly have that as a reference as they do their planning efforts.
Okay, thanks, Gretchen.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, Scott, is your hand still up from before, or do you have something else you wanted to ask?
Nothing. My hand was lowered. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. All right. Well, just in the interests of time and that 100+ slides, let's keep going. Okay, and with that, I will hand over to Erica. Erica, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Joe. It's nice to see so many familiar names here today. Today, I'm going to give an update on the Phase 2 project. Next slide. Light rail is back. VTA is happy to announce that light rail is back and running with the orange, green, and blue line services restored. Through this process, VTA is working to make sure that the system is safe and running smoothly. Just a friendly reminder to follow warning signs, signals, and crossing gates. Next slide. There's a lot of internal work happening with agencies right now, so we're going to give some highlights related to that. The real estate acquisition process is well underway as negotiations continue for key properties that are required for project elements, as well as for field offices, which are expected to be open in advance of construction sometime in late 2022. VTA and BART have been working together to finalize the design criteria requirements manuals that will be included in the final procurement documents. In addition, VTA has executed the first cooperative agreements with the cities of San Jose, Santa Clara, and Caltrans following their master agreements. FTA, VTA, and the project management oversight contractor, PMOC, are also continuing to hold weekly coordination meetings. In addition, wanted to provide a TOD update on behalf of Ron Gollum, related to the project, but not part of the project, related to TOD. The VTA board in September accepted the VTA blocks design development framework, and at the coming October board meeting, he will be taking the RFQ for the VTA block to the board for approval. Next slide. On July 28th, FTA's executive director advised VTA's GM CEO, Carolyn Gonod, that VTA and Congress expect to hear imminently regarding the project's application selection. Project selection would mean that VTA would receive full pre-award authority to incur costs for various engineering activities, utility relocations, acquisitions, construction, and other non-construction activities. In addition, if FTA recommends a letter of intent, Congress will have 30 days to review and approve. Following approval, VTA anticipates receiving the letter of intent from FTA by October. So we should have more news at our next CWG meeting in November. For contracting updates, currently all 4 contract packages are going through engineering and procurement processes, as you've heard over the last several months, and RFQs for all the contract packages, the requests for qualifications, have been released, with the Santa Clara and New Hilliard RFQ released just a couple of weeks ago. So there's an additional green check marks on the box, on the graphic here. RFPs are underway with CP2, the tunnel contract package, final RFP being released in September, followed by the systems RFP being released in October, and the underground stations RFP being released February of next year, and the Santa Clara and New Hilliard RFP to be released in March of 22 to the qualified bidders. So these current site plans are posted online. So today I wanted to kind of walk through them with you to refresh your memory, as we haven't talked about them for quite a while. As you can see on the left, the site plan shows the underground platforms in green and the refined entrance location at the south end, excuse me, of the station in purple, which you can also see in the rendering to the right that was developed as part of the public engagement process related to the look and feel of the stations, the design review committee, and the public engagement that Doug and Peter will cover in just a couple of minutes. Both vehicular and bicycle facilities at the station, and as well as parking and a future connection to the Five Winds Trail will be provided. Next slide. Downtown San Jose Station, as we all know, will be on Santa Clara with the main station entrance between Market and First, the secondary entrance between First and Second, which are the purple boxes. And then at the corner of Third and Santa Clara, there will be ventilation and egress facility. The rendering on the right is looking from the south side of Santa Clara Street at the main station entrance. There'll be lots more graphics to see regarding the look and feel in a couple of minutes from Peter and Doug. There'll be bike parking and convenient connections to VTA light rail and bus services on Santa Clara First and Second Streets. Now we're going to watch an illustrative video of the inside of the station that was developed for the look and feel of the station's public engagement.
I think it's important to just let you folks know that we came in through the main head house between Market and First, and here we are coming out on the second entrance between First and Second Streets, just to give some context.
Thank you, Gretchen. Next, here we have the Diridon station, which will be between Montgomery and Cahill on the south side of the street. The rendering on the right is from Santa Clara Street looking south to the main station entrance. Ticketing, fare gates, and bicycle facilities will be at street level, while the station's concourse and stacked platforms will be underground, similar to downtown. Now we'll watch an illustrative video of the inside of the Diridon station as well.
Peter, I've just given you the ability to narrate.
Thanks.
So-
Yeah, that's great. I was going to sort of talk people through these later in the presentation, but I can do it now also. So we're now working our way down the escalator down to the platforms through the head house at Diridon. So you'll see there's elevators to the left of you. We're now down at the upper platform level. So looking back at the head house and then going through a tunnel that then takes you out to the upper platform. Sorry, if people have questions, I can always answer them later, but I think the idea of these was just to give people a general impression of the configuration and layout, and they're complex three-dimensional spaces, so the fly-through helps give people a bit of orientation, I think, when we show the renderings and the other images. That was all.
Thanks, Peter. And then here for the Santa Clara station, it will be adjacent to the Santa Clara Caltrain station and the future Gateway Crossings residential development. The rendering on the right is taken from the angle of approximately the picture of the historic depot on the site plan on the left. That's kind of the angle looking southeast at the station, with Brokaw Road on the left side of the rendering. The at-grade station platform is shown in green on the site plan. In addition, the station will include vehicular parking, bicycle facilities, and a connection to Caltrain, Capital Corridor, Altamont Corridor Express, and several VTA bus lines. Unlike the three other underground stations, the Santa Clara station concourse will be elevated and the platform will be at ground level, similar to the Warm Springs BART station. The elevated concourse provides access to the at-grade platforms over the BART storage tracks. And that's the end of the update, and happy to take any questions.
All right, Erica, we're going to get kicked off with Alan Williams. Alan, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please accept the unmute. I know you had a question about 3rd and Santa Clara egress.
Yeah, I just saw an egress on 3rd and Santa Clara. Is that in addition to the one on 12th and Santa Clara, or is that replacing that one?
It's in addition, it's an emergency egress and ventilation facility. So yes, there will still be the mid-tunnel facility at 13th and Santa Clara as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Scott, over to you. You have the next question.
Yeah, I put my questions in the chat. Do you want, or the Q&A? I don't know if anybody else sees those, but you guys.
Sure, I'm happy to read them. I just wasn't sure if you wanted to ask your questions together and if you had any follow-up on them. Okay, so Erica, Scott's asked, for the downtown San Jose secondary station entrance, are you working with the property owners who have proposed a high-rise residential project on the site?
Yes, we are coordinating with them. We're working with them.
Great. And he's also asked, it looked like Fairgate's right at the entrance to Diridon. Will only ticketed BART customers be allowed into the station?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Okay.
Joe, in the third question was about escalators.
Okay. I think that one might have been accidentally dismissed. Okay. The video shows escalators. Are escalators back in the downtown San Jose station design? Previous station presentations showed no escalators, only banks of elevators.
Yes, that is correct. They are back in the design at the downtown station.
Great. Okay. We've also had a question from Larry Clark, if the motion renderings are available. And I can answer that. They are available on the DRC website, and we can put a link to that in the chat. Okay. Charlie, there we go. You have been unmuted.
How's that now? We good?
Hear
Yes,
you.
can hear you.
So thank you for this. The fly-throughs were interesting. I appreciate the San Jose State shout out. So thank you on that. One of the things I put in the website was, and maybe this is just your preliminary designs, but there's nothing above the station. I get the Diridon one, but in the downtown station, it's the station and there's nothing above it. And that's prime real estate, right? And floors 3 through 23. Is that just a placeholder for now, or is that the way it's planned that there's going to be nothing above the station?
I believe that the TOD group is working, through the design development framework and such related to what that could be there. Jesse, do you want to chime in and expand on that further?
Yeah, I can also answer just to
Okay,
say
Peter.
that
Great, thanks, Peter.
For the outreach that we did, it was decided that we wouldn't show any TOD around the stations, even though it is planned, just because we don't know what it's going to look like or what shape it will take. So none of the stations showed TOD, and that was, I think it was on the website somewhere, but it probably was, easy to miss. But that was the intent. Not that there's not going to be TOD there, but just we weren't showing it in these renderings or fly-throughs, just for simplicity's sake.
And that's the right answer. So, okay, well done, guys. Thank you. So 2 other comments here. One, I've done a lot of these fly-throughs before and renderings. You guys have to be really, really careful. I counted 2 people of color throughout this whole renderings, all the fly-throughs you did, and I saw no ADA folks. There was no wheelchairs, there was no crutches, there was no elderly. So just as you're, from an inclusivity point of view, have your drafters go back and include that, because you need to be looking at it from, someone in a wheelchair, how are they navigating all these escalators? And obviously you have the elevator there. And then the last thing.
Thank you very much for that comment.
Yeah, and the last one I have is a lesson I learned the hard way in MLK Library. In looking at the interior of the design there, you have these massive ceilings. And so I don't know how many floors that is, but it looks like it's 4 or 5 stories, right? That's open air inside. And it looked like you have a staircase that's I'll call a grand staircase in one of those. Just be careful about jumpers, guys. Design it from the start that, people aren't going to be able to jump 4 stories down, because that's the reality of where we're living right now, and that's going to happen. We had to redesign MLK Library to prevent that, and I just wish the people who designed the building to start with would have thought of that.
Thank you for that feedback. Appreciate it.
So we actually have a very detailed presentation about a lot of these conversation topics coming up from Doug and Peter. So I just want to flag that. Bert, I know you've had your hand up for a while. Did you want to save it for the detailed presentation and discussion about those fly-throughs, or was it more related to Erica's presentation?
I can save it till later. That's fine.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bert. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand it over to our next discussion items. Thank you so much, Erica.
Hello, I'm John Caulfield, and I'm the Contract Package 2 Tunnel and Track Work Project Manager on VTA's BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 Extension Project. I have over 35 years of experience with tunneling, including the 5-mile single-bore tunnel underneath the San Francisco Bay for the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. I'm now going to explain to you how the VTA is going to deliver this project. VTA is delivering its BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 project in 4 contract packages, also known as CPs. CP1 is systems, and it focuses on system-wide train control and rail communication systems. As the largest valued contract, CP2, the Tunnel and Track Work package, includes the procurement of a very large 48-foot diameter tunnel boring machine, excavation and lining of the tunnel, and 3 underground stations, as well as the track work, portals, and 2 mid-tunnel facilities. CP3 is specific to Newhall Yard and Santa Clara Station, which includes the maintenance yard and facility, storage tracks, ground level Santa Clara Station, and parking garage. Finally, CP4 covers stations and includes 28th Street, Little Portugal, downtown San Jose, and Diridon stations. The contract package also covers mechanical, electrical, and plumbing aspects of the 3 underground stations. CP1 and CP2 are set to begin in mid-2022 and go until early 2028 and 2029, while CP3 and CP4 are both set to start in late 2023 and go through mid-2028. Revenue service is scheduled to begin in the year 2030. The project delivery method for CPs 1, 3, and 4 is design build. This means that architectural design and construction services for each fall under a single contract and have a single point of management, with the design beginning with a 30% package prepared by the owner and the remaining design left to the builder in accordance with owner-defined criteria and standards. Design build allows for simplified procurement processes and better integration of the design and construction phases. This also means the design and construction teams are formed prior to the proposal stage. The cost of design build is competitive, but the main driver is its faster project delivery. Since construction can begin in parallel with design build can provide significant time savings. According to a 2018 study by the Construction Institute, design build projects had 102% faster delivery speed than the more traditional design bid build. Cost is also known when the contract is awarded. After selection, the design build contractor uses their skills and expertise to complete and build the project. VTA's role is to oversee their work. Progressive design build is the project delivery method for CP2. The process is similar to design build, but contracts are made with the design build contractor at an even earlier stage in the project's development, utilizing about 10% design definition, and the contractor selection is mainly based off of qualifications. Due to the contract size and complexity, a high level of collaboration and input from VTA, BART, and the progressive design build contractor is required throughout the design phase and construction phase. This helps avoid creating a design that is either too expensive and or challenging to build. This process also creates a transparent and iterative open book cost evaluation estimate, maximizing innovation and limiting project risk. Since progressive design build helps identify and mitigate issues early, CP2 will benefit this project delivery method as it allocates risks appropriately and welcomes an open and collaborative environment between both VTA, BART, and the contractor. The project's progressive design build process will include two main stages. Stage 1 will include collaboration between the progressive design build contractor, VTA, BART, the City of San Jose, and the community. It is in this phase that pre-construction design will be advanced from 10% to 90%. The bulk of pre-construction activities and some limited preparatory early work will also be included in this process. This will also include starting the procurement of the TBM, which will be specifically manufactured for the project and will take over a year. During stage 2, the progressive design build contractor will provide a proposal that includes construction costs, schedule, and risk mitigations. Stage 2 will follow the construction process through the completed design. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about VTA's BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 and how the VTA plans to deliver the largest public works infrastructure project in Santa Clara County's history.
Okay, thank you, John, for that. We do have John available to answer any questions. So as always, we will open the floor first to our CWG members to ask any questions. Please put them in the Q&A box or use the raise hand feature. Scott, I see a raised hand, but I'm not sure if that's from earlier. Okay, not hearing anything from Scott. We've got a question from Larry Clark. John, if this is sole sourced, how do you get a good price?
So it's not a sole source contract. What we're doing is we've shortlisted 3 consortiums and they will put together proposals based on the 10% design. We will have an indicative price that gets passed on along with their proposals, and that'll be a starting point where we will be working with them with a selected progressive design build team. we'll work that as a starting point, and as they are designing from 10 to 90%, it's an open book cost process. So as the design is developing, we're iteratively getting a cost together, reviewing that. We review risks, we review methods, things like that, where we go ahead and price those into the work. And then by the time we get to stage 2, we'll have a firm fixed price that incorporates all of those mitigations on risk. In the event that we cannot reach a price agreement with them, we have what's called an off-ramp. So we could actually, at that point, we could take the design, and we have the right of assignment of the designer, and we could pick that design up and then take it forward from that point and do it in another method, say design bid build.
Okay. And we've had a follow-up question just to confirm that all 3 of the shortlisted are being involved in this bid process.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. At this stage, I'll open it to any members of the community that have questions on John's presentation. So we'll just give people a minute to use the raised hand feature or to put a Q&A in the Q&A box. Okay, not seeing any. John, thank you so much. Have a great night and appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye. All right, at this point, I will hand over to Doug and Peter. Just letting everyone know this is a long presentation. There are a lot of slides. So I encourage you to hold your questions to the end because the question that you ask may be answered on one of the following slides that you see. And at this point, I will hand it over to Doug and Peter.
Thanks, Joe, and we'll try to be rather brief on the slides to save some room for questions and discussion. So we have 3 parts. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about the look and feel elements. A lot of you folks probably saw released out into the public, right? There was a social pinpoint community feedback platform that was shared with the CWG groups, and we also had some pop-ups. And I'll first start by talking about the process, pass it to Peter to talk about the concepts that were shared with the public. And then I have some early findings from the community engagement work that we've done with you all. So where did the concepts we presented to the public come from? Next slide, please. These were developed, the project team and the project architecture team, Peter and team, worked with the design review committees to develop these concepts. We talked these through with the design review committees before they were shared with the public. And what the design review committees are, is they're a forum for community leaders and local government partners to provide input to VTA's Phase 2 project team for select visual elements of the station. I'll get in a little later about what that exactly means. And there were monthly meetings being held between June and September to share and discuss these concepts and refine them. The last round happening this week. And the DRCs, the design review committees, helped the project team shape the look and feel of the elements that were shared broadly with the public for review and feedback. So the DRC, the design review committee were made up of working group members from different organizations, that represent large organizations. The intent was they represent large cross-section of the community and are a conduit to communicate back with the community. So the DRC, the design review committee for downtown, included a member from the Downtown Residents Association, the San Jose Downtown Association, the American Institute of Architects, Silicon Valley, San Jose State University, and the city of San Jose. And the DRC working group members for Diridon included members from the Delmas Park Neighborhood Association, the San Jose Sharks Spur, and the city of San Jose. So not all parts of the stations were topics for the look and feel elements that were presented to the public, the design review committees. So things that were not part of the process were not topics considered during the process. the layouts and configurations of core station components, transit-oriented development. Transit-oriented development is a companion effort being led by VTA Real Estate. Station access is also a companion effort. So station access, entrance locations, fare gates were not part of what was considered in this process, nor was selection of public art. But as you can see down below, areas where art would be installed in the future was considered in this process. Generally things that, were part of the visual experience for the average customer, right? The average user. So the palette of materials / architectural finishes and things like the customer's experience entering the station and leaving the station. So the process for the look and feel of the stations. So there was that 4 months of work with the design review committees. The concepts were recently released to the public, to you all, and we're taking the feedback we received, summarizing it, refining concepts based on it, and that information all goes into a summary report that will go into the RFP for the design build contractor. And that the intent is to finish the draft RFP in roughly the month. And then the RFP goes through internal review with VTA and the BART program team, the BSV team, and then it's reviewed with the cities. So in the case of these stations, the city of San Jose and BART, and then comments are addressed, the RFP is finalized, and then the intent is to release the RFP, including the report with information on the look and feel elements of the station in the first half of 2020. And that's really the process components of the look and feel elements. And with that, I'll pass it over to Peter to talk about the concepts that were shared with the public.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Just a quick correction. I think 2022 is what you meant with the RFP.
It is. I keep mixing that one up. Thanks for correcting me.
So I'm just going to give a quick overview of some of the topics from the social pinpoint. So if you've seen that, you will have probably seen most of the content here. And it's really just to give you a sense of where this came from and what were some of the decisions that we were seeking feedback on. And then we also got a lot of feedback on other topics, which we think is also very useful, just even if it's not specifically for the DRC process, certainly for the overall development of the stations. We also got a good overview of what was on people's minds, which I think Doug will review after I'm finished. This first view is just as you're approaching the station on Santa Clara Street on the southern side of the station. If you go to the next slide. This is an overview, hopefully from those fly-throughs, you got a reasonable sense of the overall layout of the downtown station. This is the primary head house, and the scope of the design review committee was to discuss the overall look and feel of the stations, including materials like floor and wall finishes and the locations for public art. And so the areas highlighted on the left there are some of the areas that were specifically topics for the DRC. And on the right are the images of materials that we were looking at. And then this is the secondary head house, which again, the idea is that the secondary head house would really follow the primary head house in terms of the materials selected and the overall look and feel. Next slide. And then this is just the two of them side by side, just to give you a sense of scale. The secondary head house does not have escalators. It's elevator and stair access only down to the platforms. So it has a lower capacity for passengers. This is a view then looking straight on at the primary head house. And some of the main features, and we'll kind of get into the locations for public art, but at the very beginning of that process, we talked about what are the overall themes for each of the different stations. And for downtown San Jose, in addition to its immediate link with the university, there was also a desire to make this to celebrate sort of cultural diversity and the variety of cultural offerings that are in downtown San Jose, whereas Diridon was identified because of the Downtown West plan and other things as kind of center of innovation and technology. So each one has slightly different themes. And so the public art that we're showing and the location of that art trying to draw people into the station, and to the selection of that art would, try and work on those themes. Next. And then this is a view of that secondary head house entrance. Next. I'm gonna go fairly quickly because we have two stations to get through in a short period of time. So again, looking at the two side by side, trying to kind of create a similar kind of overall look and feel. Next. And then this specific question was just about the treatment of the two walls at the front elevation of the building. I mean, really, we're trying to draw people in with the artwork, but this first treatment is just like a standard stacked brick pattern, and the next one is kind of more of a mix of the different colors and materials from the adjacent buildings. So the two side by side, mixed versus single brick color. Next. And then inside the head house, we also we're looking at the ceiling. This is a standard metal slat ceiling. One option is to go with a very neutral kind of color, or next, go with a warmer color that would help to kind of bring out the ceiling surface. So we got lots of feedback on those two options. And then if you go to the next one, the flooring was another topic. Here, what we're doing is highlighting the circular drum of the head house that is excavated down to platform level by contrasting between the two different terrazzo colors. This one's dark on the outside, light on the inside, and if you go to the next one, it's the inverse of that. And both of those have pros and cons. So that was one of the questions that we got feedback on. Next. And then this is looking at that same topic as you are going down the escalators. This is at the lower concourse level or upper platform level. And again, light versus dark. Next. So those were some of the material finish questions that we were looking at, as well as highlighting some of the materials that have already been selected, like the stainless steel for the cladding of the escalators, etc. Next. And then in terms of the secondary head house, similar kind of themes, we felt that there was an opportunity there to have some kind of dynamic signage or advertising that could feature information on the San Jose State. If you go to the next slide. So as people are kind of either coming in or out of the station, they could get information on what was going on that day. Next. And then moving on to Diridon, a similar overview diagram of the station, slightly different configuration here because we're more in an open plaza, at least prior to any TOD being developed, which is as it's shown here with landscaping. If you go to the next slide, this is the approach to the station, and you'll see the wall that you see on the left there, or on the right, sorry, in a teal color. One of the options we have there is we picked this color as a kind of mix of both the BTA, BART, and San Jose Shark coloring themes as an opportunity to introduce color into the station. Next. Or we also had kind of a more neutral, natural wood-looking finish to the core wall, which you see here. So there were a lot of strong opinions, option 1 versus option 2 here. Next. The next choice was again about the flooring, and similar to downtown, we had different options here, light versus dark, and you can also see in this image some of the wayfinding that we were proposing putting into the flooring to help kind of give people some orientation. Next. And then art placement, that core wall could also potentially be used as a location for art. This would be sort of a kinetic treatment. We could also potentially hang public art from above, either from the canopy or from one of these landings. Next. Or we could use the underside of some of these landings to introduce public art. So that was another question we were seeking feedback on, which one was preferred. Next. And then this just again gives an overview of the design intent in terms of the plaza and how we want to introduce landscaping and seating into that area prior to any TOD being built, and then standing seam metal roof for the canopy itself. And I think that's it. And then I'll hand back to Doug.
Thank you, Peter. So we shared those concepts very broadly, right? Here shows some of the notifications we sent out about the social pinpoint community feedback platform that I hope many of you had a chance to use and provide your feedback on, and the pop-ups. So we shared it internally. We also shared it with the cities of San Jose and Santa Clara, the council offices, members of those DRC exec committees that I mentioned earlier, and asked them to share widely with their networks, communication staff for the cities. So the DRC, had members from the community and members from the city. So we shared that out with both of those groups. And then we also shared it out with this email list for the community working groups and the larger email list associated, the VTA, BSV, the VTA's BART project-wide email list, and social media. So Twitter for the project. And I also saw it posted by at least a couple council members. So it was out there pretty broadly. And so we did 5 pop-ups, at least one in each of the station areas. The locations are listed here. Next slide, please. And the social pinpoint site. We got a lot of feedback on this site. Next slide, please. Here's a summary of that. This is the numbers are a little bit higher now. So unique users to the homepage, we have almost 2,000 unique users that have visited it. For each of the station, it's 200, 300, 400 people have visited the surveys for each station. Over 50, around 100 comments and survey responses were provided via the social pinpoint community feedback platform. So the feedback that we received, I think I can answer Alan's question in the chat here too. We received all kinds of feedback that we intend to summarize into the process, and how it has been. The summarized feedback will be shared back, and how the project intends to address it will be shared back. There's a report that goes into the RFP I mentioned earlier, and there's also we'll develop a summary of that to put up on the website and share back with the public. So not as I'll describe in a little bit, not all of the feedback was exactly related to the questions that we asked or that were a focus of the look and feel process. But as Peter mentioned, it's very useful info, right? It helps us understand what issues are still out there in the public's mind, so we can, in some cases educate, in some cases take things into account, depending on certain stages of where the project is at in its development. So there will also be updates at the public meetings for the overall project, not just on the look and feel of the stations that are slated to happen in late October, early November. So we received a lot of comments that were relevant to multiple stations, not just Downtown-Diridon, but also 28th Street and Santa Clara. And those are summarized here. Generally, a comment was there should be more greenery, and that is something the project intends to do. It's a requirement in many instances. It just wasn't showed in the renderings. The focus is more on the structural elements at this point. We've also heard that people would like shade, especially over walkways and parking. I can confirm the project is including hookups to solar panels where there is structured parking. Comments to further include and integrate wayfinding. Saw some of that in the concepts that Peter presented, and we'll continue to think about that. More color and art, including on the structural elements. Those are things we're talking about, right, including more right now. Things about being more sustainable, retaining stormwater, using more sustainable materials, providing places to sit. And those are things we intend to do, including, and then, outside seating shouldn't accommodate sleeping. And there are also a lot of recommendations for future considerations that should be taken into account when selecting art, right? So this process identifies places for the art, not the art itself. Next slide, please. We also received some off-topic comments, right? So we have some responses here, some we intend to address in later rounds of engagement. We did hear in downtown San Jose that the entrance being set back, negatively affects access and egress times. However, it being set back actually helps. It allows for passenger queuing during rush hour while reducing conflict with pedestrian flow along the sidewalks or pedestrians that are waiting for a bus outside of the station. So generally, the entrance being set back helps with flow and doesn't negatively impact egress times. We also received some very relevant comments, right, that we're evaluating and looking at ways that we can incorporate. Like for downtown, the station should be more colorful, and we should also show space for the space that exists for musicians. We also received those like supportive, off-topic, relevant comments. We received some supportive feedback for Diridon. There's a quote up there at the top: "A mid-century fan's dream." Absolutely love this look. And we did hear a number of times that people do like the teal wall, right? Go Sharks was a piece of feedback received often. We also received some off-topic comments like that we should preserve the historic Diridon Station Depot. Just to be clear, VTA's BART project does not have any impact to the historic Diridon Station Depot. And we also heard the concern a number of times that the station should be designed in a way that there's options to be integrated with the future Diridon intermodal station. And we heard a couple times that it looks too similar to the 28th Street Little Portugal station. So next steps, it's just really a summary of that process I was describing before, taking the findings that we've learned from this process, summarizing those into a report that goes and becomes a report for the look and feel of the station that goes in the package for design build contractors. We'll post that report, the highlights of that report, to the website for public review. And then we enter into the process to review the RFP with the city of San Jose for these two stations, and then release the RFP for the design build contractor for the stations in the first half of 2022. And that's all we have. And I will pass it over to you, Joe, for ask us questions.
Peter, great presentation. We've had a question. Is the brick shown for the station facade either stacked or mixed going to be specified as actual stone in the bid package?
No, I don't. The intent is not that it's a stone veneer, but that it's going to be, most likely it's more like concrete units rather than stone. At least that's the current intent.
Some sort of treatment to make it look like it.
Yeah, correct.
Great. Is the plaza around Diridon Station being designed at Downtown West quality standards? And is the operation and maintenance of the plaza BART or VTA responsibility?
I can answer the first question. We have been trying to work with the material palettes and landscape selections from Downtown West, their overall master plan for the area. So we wanted this block to be integrated with the plans for the rest of the Downtown West. So we have been coordinating with that in terms of like the paving materials selected and the planting. So we are trying to do that. Again, we're trying to kind of work on multiple fronts because we're also trying to anticipate, any plans for future TOD and how landscaping and that site plan will be impacted by different scenarios. The second one as to whose responsibility the maintenance is, I believe it's VTA, but I don't want to be quoted on that because I don't know for sure. Maybe somebody else can answer that.
Gretchen or Erica, are you able to chime in at this point?
Sorry, I believe I'm not 100% versed on this, but what we've done for phase one is that anything inside the drip line, inside the fare gates is BART's responsibility, and outside the fare gates is VTA's responsibility. So I believe that is the case, but don't quote me 100% on that.
Sure, we'll make sure we've got a definitive answer for the notes.
Yep.
Jim, you have your hand up and I'm going to give you permission to talk. There you go.
I'm assuming that both above grade and below grade portions of the station will be built by the design build station contractor. how much of the design, how much of the final design will be done as part of that design build contract versus determined in advance and sort of dictated for the design build contractor?
I can try to answer that one. And then if anyone else wants to jump in and correct me, feel free to do so. But the idea is that the design intent is communicated through drawing specifications and this report, which would outline both the design review committee findings as well as the overall design intent for the stations with the images and renderings. And then we've taken the designs up to a certain percentage of development, but obviously there's a much longer way to go to get to 100% construction document level. And so the design builder would then carry that design intent forward, working with VTA as the client to approve that any changes they make or anything are still meeting the design intent. So as far as I understand it, that's the way that it would proceed from the RFP period forward with the design builder. And I think there are intended to be other outreach opportunities with the public as the design continues to evolve, because we're only at the early stages at this point. So there will be other moments to come back and review as the designs continue to develop.
Erica, I saw you on camera. Erica, did you want to respond to that? I can add a little bit.
Well, go for it. If you had something more to add, Peter was correct there. Yeah, we'd be working with the design build contractor, with the cities, and there will be public engagement after, continued public engagement throughout the project related to the design.
The process goes on. We're moving towards delivering a project, right? So some things do need to get locked in. There's some flexibility for things, but eventually you have to figure out what the project's going to be. And as things move along, some things will get locked in. Got to go through the process.
Great. Just reminding people, if you have a question, put your hand up. We will go to Scott. There you go, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I have to admit, having looked at the website and looked at these designs a little bit, it's pretty underwhelming, monochromatic in theme. I'm talking particularly the downtown San Jose station, and to hear the material choice. You're going to do a kind of a concrete veneer treatment for the facade, next to the beautiful old San Jose Savings of Loan building, which right next door, it corrugated aluminum. At least you've got the terrazzo on the floors. I know the floors are going to take a lot of work there, but it just seems that these are some value engineering or some corner cutting already going on with the design. And I certainly agree with some of the comments that you've got through the website. Where's the color, where's the excitement? And it just seems that if you're not specifying, if you're putting into the bid packages that you're going to have veneer treatments and these type of materials, then you're really putting, you're tying one hand behind the back of having a real lasting station. The veneer starts chipping off, and concrete veneer starts chipping off. So build it for 100 years, please.
I appreciate that feedback, and we are definitely doing what we can, I think, to respond to some of those comments. So what you saw there was where we are right now, but there's definitely still more design work to be done.
Great. Do any other CWG members have comments? Oh, Chris, I'm not sure if you're trying to speak. Your hand's gone up and down a couple of times.
The question I had was, in the industry, are there seismic thresholds that need to be met in relation to the tunnel and stations being able to withstand a significant earthquake?
Yes, all the BART facilities and any TOD that's above them have to meet essential facility standards. So there's a higher seismic threshold like a hospital that needs to be met than a typical building.
Right. Thank you.
Great. Do any members of the community have questions for Peter and Doug? Okay, not seeing them. Thank you, Doug and Peter. Appreciate going through those slides for us.
Thank you, and thanks everybody.
Thank you.
And now over to Erica.
Yes, before I dive into access, I did wanted to provide a clarification related to TOD at the Downtown-Diridon stations. The CP4 RFP will include a baseline option with no TOD, as well as an option for TOD at the station. Working with the city and the developers will determine whether to move forward with TOD or not 6 months after the notice to proceed for contract package 4. So roughly 2 years from now, we'll know whether or not there'll be TOD at the stations. Just want to add that clarification. Now we're going to briefly talk about access and circulation process. At our next CWG meeting in November, I'll be back again to do a deeper dive into the specific details. Next slide. I was last here talking to you about station access design principles in November of 2019. So wanted to let you all know what we've been up to related to access since then. From March of 2020 to March of 21, the BSV team was focused on revising the station design, which included the track and platform configuration, as well as refining the entrance locations. We also received updated 2040 ridership forecast model information. And since March 2021, we've been meeting regularly with the City of San Jose to discuss the station access and circulation design. Based on the updated ridership forecast information, we revised and refined the bicycle and vehicular needs. In combination with the revised station design, we've gone through a technical process with the city which has included reviewing the adopted city policies and vision, identifying access improvements which support that vision or at least don't preclude it, and identifying opportunities for future improvements. During our technical biweekly meetings we've had with the city since June for each station, we've established a shared understanding of the basis of design of each station, confirmed the station area vision, and discussed access and circulation features. We've also worked together to identify processes for community and public review, such as the public service lanes along Santa Clara Street, which I'll get into in a minute. We're documenting the access and circulation facilities in a basis of city facility design memo that will be included in the RFP for CP4. These will be draft concepts for bidding purposes, and the intent is for VTA and the city to refine the concepts through planning projects with the public and stakeholder input that I'll talk to in just a minute. I wanted to remind you that this technical access and circulation work is based on planning principles in the plans and documents that you see shown here for the for the downtown San Jose station, and these here for the Diridon station. In addition to the planning principles, the station access and circulation features are based on VTA's station access hierarchy, which you can see on the right of the slide here, showing pedestrian and bicycle access at the top of the hierarchy, with vehicular pickup and drop off and parking at the bottom. The slide also shows the priorities for the various access mode. As I mentioned before, we'll get into more specifics at the next meeting in November. But generally for pedestrians, the focus has been on universal access and pedestrian comfort. For bicycle access, we're considering access routes and bike parking needs. We're looking at access and circulation that facilitates transfers to various transit modes. We're accommodating ADA loading, and we have a reduced focus on auto access for the urban core stations. We wanted you to be aware of various city-led and VTA-led planning efforts that will have opportunities for you to provide your input. These planning efforts will feed into the BSV2 design. The In-Movimiento, which you've heard about here at CWG meetings several times, was adopted by the city in early 2021. The city commenced the downtown transportation plan in early 2020. We have ongoing coordination with Google and the Downtown West project, and there'll be a public service lanes study on Santa Clara Street starting in early 2022. Next, I wanted to let you know where we go from here. At the next CWG meeting in November, I'll be back to provide a deeper dive into access and circulation features at the stations, as we're still currently working through some items with the cities. Then we'll move into city and agency review of the draft RFP, and we'll release the RFP to the qualified bidders. We'll continue to work with the city and contractors on the final design, integrating the planning efforts that I mentioned earlier. And with that, Jess Zink from the City of San Jose is here with me to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Erica, and thanks to the CWG for having us. I'm just here to answer any questions that you have of the city, and also want to thank VTA because the team has really engaged with us considerably over the summer to kind of work through some of these questions.
Great. So just reminding folks to use the raised hand feature to let us know if you'd like to speak, or you can put a question in the Q&A box. Scott.
Hi, Jess. Hey, the public service lane thing, first time I've heard of that you're starting in 22. Is that a VTA or a city study?
Yeah, it's a great question, Scott, and I'll take this, Erica, if that's all right.
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, the public service lane study is something that was really surfaced through the Downtown West project, as well as the Diridon Station area plan. And in the Downtown West project, one of the things that Downtown West committed to as a result of some of the congestion findings for transit along Santa Clara Street was to support a VTA city process to study and really design the options for getting transit to move more quickly, into, out of the Diridon area, the downtown, and to and from East San Jose as well. And so that's the effort that we're referring to, because we know that there's a lot of design options that have to be really carefully looked at. And so VTA and the city have determined that we should jointly undertake that study so that we can take both, city design and priorities into account, as well as the transit system priorities into account.
Thank you. Scott, you still have your hand up, and then we can move into some questions in the Q&A box.
My hand is lowered.
Thank you. All right. Erica, we've had a question. Can the access study be released? Is there an opportunity to have more details available rather than what's in this presentation?
That's why I'll be back in November to provide the details. We're still working through it with the city, so it's not available at this time, but we'll have more details in November.
Great. And we've had a comment that is there an opportunity to continue to accommodate car drop-off, given the need that cars will still exist?
Yes, so it is still, we are taking it into consideration, but as I mentioned, as it's an urban core station and it's at the bottom of the access hierarchy, there has been less focus on that at this time. But yes, we acknowledge that there will still be pickup drop-off happening at the stations.
Great. Give it a minute, see if we have any other comments coming in. All right, not seeing any. Thank you again, Erica, and thank you, Jess.
Sure thing, thank you.
Gretchen, handing it over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I am going to go ahead and give a quick update on where we are at with our community engagement efforts. We're going to dive right in and update you on progress that we've made on our business resource program. Before I dive into that, just a reminder of our goals. Clearly, we want to make sure that businesses have access and visibility during construction. We have committed to providing marketing and technical assistance to businesses near the construction areas. We have environmental commitments to businesses for the project, and we need to make sure that the program that we develop meets those commitments. We want to make sure that the support offered is commensurate with the actual impacts of the project, since we are spending taxpayer dollars. And I think this is a really important point that we don't focus on very much, is that we want to support businesses as they prepare for opportunities that the project provides. We will have at the downtown station, for example, almost 28,000 weekday riders in 2040. And that's a lot of folks walking by the restaurant, the sandwich shop, the hairdresser. We want to make sure that folks are ready for their close-up when construction is complete. Okay, so we have been hard at work this summer. We brought on, as you may be aware, I know we have a lot of crossover between our Small Business Task Force and the CWG. We brought on JC Lacey Consultants, and he is previously involved with LA Metro and helped prepare their business programs there. So we brought him on as a consultant for phase 2. And he has reviewed project information, obviously our environmental documents, the small business resource study that we completed in 2020, which looked at case studies, business analysis near each one of the station areas, as well as conducted stakeholder interviews. He also looked at our CEOP. We conducted business interviews all along the corridor. We held 2 small business task force meetings in June and September to get input, briefings with CSJ's Office of Economic Development, and some additional interviews with LA Metro and Orange County Transit Authority. And with that, he has just released draft recommendations to our team. We have 3 major recommendations right now, and one that we will consider as we get closer to bringing on our progressive design builder. So let's go ahead and go through each of these recommendations. The first is Virtual Business Solution Center, and this satisfies the need for technical assistance for businesses. So what is technical assistance? It's help with accounting, it's help potentially building a website, it's help navigating city services. Technical assistance for small businesses will help them navigate what they need, and JC's recommendation was to establish a virtual business solution center to help build up the capacity of small businesses during construction. We took a page from COVID where everything had to go virtual. Because it says virtual, that does not mean that that eliminates the need for feet on the street at all. But we did want to acknowledge that folks do need resources at their fingertips when and where they need it. So our plan at this point, the recommendation is to partner with well-established local service providers, CBOs, to help deliver these services, to make sure that the support is individualized and one-on-one, that we are using hi, my goodness, I can't say these words tonight. A diverse and multilingual approach when we do go door to door, and that we have a robust web portal that's available 24/7. Okay, next slide. Signage and wayfinding is incredibly important to businesses along the alignment and particularly near our construction staging areas. So in coordination with our marketing department, develop branding designs for an engaging and vibrant wayfinding and signage campaign that would use local business images, landmark, leverage local art, as well as maximize the assets that we have as part of the construction project. So our staging areas, sound walls, buildings, and to make sure that we've got all of this managed through a content calendar. Okay, and the final piece is a shop local marketing campaign. So this is really something that we've seen a lot of success in other business resource programs for transit agencies, making sure that we've got public-facing marketing designed to increase walk-in traffic and exposure for local retail businesses, including with the employees that we are bringing on to help build the project. So this would include VTA-sponsored social media, coupon community events, video, photography, making sure that we've got a business directory on our website or on a new website, looking at digital advertising, e-blasts, and targeting that by location, demographics, language, and age. And of course, targeted social media ads. So the fourth piece of this would be additional business support or potential financial support. So the recommendation was to ensure that we understand the intensity and duration of impacts, and we will know that once our progressive design builder is on board next spring. In the meantime, we are still doing some work to look at potential funding sources, make sure that we're reaching out to CDFIs and presenting all of this along with factoring in the impacts that we anticipate from the progressive design builder in the summer of 2022. So moving on to additional outreach work, we have been incorporating specific feedback that we've heard from businesses, from business organizations, as well as lessons learned from other VTA projects and other transit projects into our contract specifications. And this includes early notification about construction activities, making sure that we're coordinating closely between all CP teams, VTA, and with stakeholders. We're adding in additional outreach staff to help us have more feet on the street. We have signage and wayfinding specifications, as well as communication for rapid incidents. We also have stakeholder management software, obviously project hotline and email specifications, and then beautification and aesthetic treatment of construction fencing. I have been downtown frequently lately. I have my camera. I've been looking at folks' construction fencing. It's a real opportunity, I think, for not only beautification and aesthetics, but also the wayfinding that I mentioned in a previous slide. Okay. In addition to that, we continue to do updates on our properties. One thing that I'm really excited to roll out for you, this will not be ready until next summer, but is My VTA, and that's a SMS or text alerts for construction notification. So Scott may sign up for notifications for construction at the downtown station for lane closures. And what we found is that while folks might not necessarily look at an email that VTA sends, they will typically look at a text message. So this will be an opt-in, create an account on VTA, sign up for text messages, and it will be connected to the notification system that we already create. So this will be launched, I believe, next summer. This will also be multilingual, so we will really be able to reach a large swath of constituents. We've also updated our website, and on that updated website, you can find new updated fact sheets, and I encourage you to take a look at each of the stations. We've got new fact sheets and new information at each of the station pages. We're currently doing some milestone event planning, thinking about not only the groundbreaking, but also what do we do when we reach the halfway point for the tunnel, and looking at milestone event planning for each one of the station areas. So that's a really fun component that we will probably come back and ask for feedback from the community working groups. And as Doug mentioned, we helped support the tabling when we did outreach to get feedback on the design concepts for each one of the stations. And we are getting ready to hold some virtual public meetings. We're holding virtual meetings in late October and early November. And we will be holding them, one in English. We'll be holding a Spanish, a Vietnamese, and a Portuguese meeting as well. We have yet to publish the meeting dates because we want to make sure that our materials and our timing reflects upcoming milestones. But we do have a link to register for notification on the project website. And once we host our public meetings, we'd like to join yours. We would ask that if you have an opportunity for us to speak to your committees or to your neighborhood, we'd love to join you. We'll give a brief project update, and we are hoping to join you later this fall after our public meeting. So starting in early November through December, January, February, we're here with you. So there we go. I am glad to take your questions.
Gretchen, will JCL's report be available for public review?
I believe so. We haven't received the final version yet, so we're still working through that.
Okay. And Scott has already stuck his hand up to get messages on downtown San Jose and Diridon stations. But we'll try to make sure that happens when it launches. All right, just reminding folks, if you have any questions for Gretchen, raise hand feature or put it in the Q&A box.
Actually, and one quick update, I didn't get a chance to type it in, but Susan and other folks, you are correct. October 16th is indeed a Saturday. We don't want to ask you to join us on a Saturday for a meeting that is not taking place. I believe the date is October 15th. And we will send that out. Kate will send that out as part of our update when we send the notes out.
Yes, thank you to those who clarified that. Appreciate that. All right, I'm not seeing any questions come in. So Gretchen, I think you are good to go. All right.
Great, thanks.
So now moving on to another exciting part of tonight's meeting, the CWG member report back, where we invite our CWG members to share what's been going on in their community and how they've shared updates about the project. Okay, so I am going to just check who we've got in the meeting and then go down alphabetically. Alan, it looks like you are first up on our attendees.
Yeah, really not much since you know, I sent out a lot of the geotechnical drilling stuff, but since then we no feedback. I did send out all that station information, so I hope a number of my neighbors were able to participate in that. But looking forward to more information about access and things like that. I think that'll be more relevant to my neighbors.
Great, thanks, Alan. Bert, over to you.
Nothing to report from here.
Okay, no worries. Doesn't look like we've got Carol, so Charlie.
So not too much to report. We have circulated internally, obviously all your website and the documents that have been sent out. I'm going to be meeting with our Associated Students president tomorrow and bringing her up to speed on the progress that's being made and see if we can get some of our students to weigh in on what's happening here as well.
Great, thanks. Chris.
The Arena Authority is planning on having Gretchen and Jill Gibson join the Arena Authority board in a meeting this fall to provide some updates to the board of directors.
Great, thanks, Chris. It doesn't look like we have Dana or Derek. Elizabeth, do you have an update for us?
Hi, yes, nothing much. I participated in the design meetings and those meetings were very helpful. And I'm glad those information can now be made available to the community. Posted that info on our Facebook page and was trending very well. So there is a lot of interest about the station developments in the community. That's all.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Fred, over to you.
Nothing to report. I guess not too much anyway. We've been participating in the design review committee meetings for Diridon, and we've met separately with some of those folks from VTA, and it's all been helpful information thus far. And yeah, just discussing things internally at this point for the most part.
Great. Looks like Jeff and Jim aren't with us, so I'm going to hand it over to Larry Clark. Larry, you should have the opportunity to unmute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can.
I'm sorry. This is Larry Clark from the Alameda Business Association. We've taken during COVID, we've had a little bit a lot of difficulty in terms of our membership. However, in the last 2 months, we've rekindled our activities here, and we now have 85 members of the Alameda Business Association. And so I am hopeful that we can take advantage of some of the activities that I saw with Gretchen's slides, and you participate as an adjacent neighborhood to all the activities that you've been talking about this last hour and a half. I am impressed by the scope, and now that I've never really seen sort of a visual of what was going to happen there. It's all theoretical, and I think we're going to have a meeting on Thursday and visiting or giving that to some of our members, at least remotely, will inspire them in what you've been trying to accomplish.
Thank you. That's very kind, and we'll pass that on to the project team that wasn't able to make it here. Thank you for that. And finally, Scott, over to you.
Dave Fenster is an architect from our design committee. He's participating in the DRC, and they're looking forward to the final meeting tomorrow for the downtown station. We continue to advocate with some of the VTA and BART board members on how important it is to have access to the stations from the south side of Santa Clara Street. We believe it's a major flaw of the project design right now, that you only have access to the stations on the north side of Santa Clara Street, when most of your major traffic generators like San Jose State University, City Hall, the J. Paul developments, etc., are on the south side of Santa Clara Street. We coordinated with Gretchen and her team and had a successful farmers market outreach in the SOFA district. We met with JCL. We again commend VTA on the selection of this consultant. They were the ones that did the excellent job on the LA Metro business interruption fund and outreach. I think you've got the right team there. I look forward to seeing their report. And just a reminder that we see both the downtown station and the Diridon station as both being part of the downtown. And we continue to work very closely with the Sharks and the SAP Center in coordinating with all of the elements that are going on there, which not just include BART, as we know, but the Downtown West development, the Caltrain, and the high-speed rail, and trying to really think about the timing and the construction mitigation. And we're very, very interested in looking at the details, what is actually in your bid packages, and how you're going to be holding your contractors accountable for delivering what they say.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I think Erica wanted just to chime in with a clarification about something that came up in the updates.
Yeah, Scott, I just wanted to clarify that, as part of this project, we are accommodating a future connection to the south side that would be a separate project and not part of this federal funding. So that, we know that there's been conversations, and then that's something that's of much interest to many folks, and just wanted to let you know that that is being accommodated within the design for this project.
Awesome. It would be great to fold that in, Erica, on every meeting.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Erica. And thank you to our CWG members for your updates. Moving on, we've just got one or two more slides. Okay, so just a reminder that the next CWG meeting is November 16th at 4 p.m. It's going to be virtual, and we'll have a number of updates for you, including obviously a phase 2 update, more information about station access, Gretchen's Corner with community engagement, and a station area update. All right. Thank you everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing you at the next CWG meeting or on other channels. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Joe, did you just put me in the corner?
Nobody puts Gretchen in the corner. Except Joe. See you later.